and again, I find a theological argument that lets me see my faith in a whole new way. And that happened in this last week. So I thought for this week's service, I would walk you through what I learned. And I hope that you find it as transformative as I have. Now, it comes in a few steps, so I'll spread them out in more digestible chunks. The Bible starts with creation, right? There's a few false starts and a couple of U-turns. And then God tells Abraham to take his wife Sarah and leave his family's home and go to a new country that God will show him. Now, Abraham is a man of faith, and off he goes. He and Sarah settle in the land that God shows them, and life goes along. They prosper, but they have no children, which makes it a little hard to see how Abraham and Sarah are going to found a mighty nation more numerous than the stars in the sky if they don't have a single kid. But they're living a good life with flourishing flocks and plenty of servants, which really is not bad for a couple in their 90s. So, can I ask Candy for you to give us the first reading, which is Genesis 18, verses 1 to 15.
The Lord appeared to Abraham by the oaks of Mamre as he sat at the entrance of his tent in the heat of the day. He looked up and saw 3 men standing near him. When he saw them, he ran from the tent entrance to meet them and bowed down to the ground. He said, "My Lord, if I find favor with you, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought and wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree. Let me bring a little bread that you may refresh yourselves, and after that you may pass on, since you have come to your servant." So they said, "Do as you have said." And Abraham hastened into the tent to Sarah and said, "Make ready quickly 3 measures of choice flour, knead it and make cakes." Abraham ran to the herd and took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to the servant who hastened to prepare it. Then he took curds and milk and the calf that he had prepared and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree while they ate.
And there's another page.
They said to him,
There we go.
"Where is your wife Sarah?" And he said, "There in the tent." Then one said, "I will surely return to you in due season, and your wife Sarah shall have a son." And Sarah was listening at the tent entrance behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in age. It had ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. So Sarah laughed to herself, saying, "After I have grown old and my husband is old, shall I have pleasure?" The Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old?' Is anything too wonderful for the Lord? At the set time I will return to you, but in due season, and Sarah shall have a son." But Sarah denied, saying, "I did not laugh, for she was afraid." He said, "Oh yes, you did laugh."
Amen. 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 So the first part of this reading that Candy just did, Abraham is running around like someone who is getting ready for Christmas. All of a sudden there are guests who need to be entertained, and Abraham is driving Sarah and the servant crazy with cooking instructions, even though they have probably cooked every single meal he has eaten for the last 50 years. There is so much human action, action, action. Everything is under Abraham's control, and he is going to control it. And then we get to the second part of the reading. And all Abraham can do is listen. He and Sarah will have a son in due season. They have been hoping to have a kid for decades. They're in their 90s. There isn't anyone, including Sarah herself, who thinks this is even remotely possible. Because it isn't. Now maybe there's some fancy legal footwork we can do about adopting a kid or a kid of the heart, but there is no way that their DNA is going to be involved. Now this isn't news to us. This story is read as proof that God steps in and makes impossible things happen in human lives. What I hadn't thought about was that at this juncture, the God of Israel is setting us on a new trajectory. Up to this point in the Bible, in the faith history of our people, We could point to other religions from the Middle East and find very comparable stories. The world gets created, there are floods, the gods get involved with human lives, the gods withdraw from human lives, thunderstorms, volcanoes, growing crops, changing of the seasons, right? All of those have a myth or a god associated with them. If you have something too much or not enough, then you pray to the God in charge of that particular department, and hopefully your prayers are answered. But the range of possibilities, what could possibly happen, you know what's possible going in. You know what you can ask for because the possibilities are bounded by this world. If you're 90, there's no point in asking for a kid. The rich and powerful can ask for more maybe because they have more leverage, and the poor and weak have less. But in the end, you know what the possibilities are. And more than that, at this point, there's a specific ritual. There's a predictable pattern of offering and worship, and you do these things in these steps, and prayers are answered, more or less. As powerful and capricious as the gods are, they're predictable, they're controllable, they're limited. The sea god doesn't get a vote about a disease running through a herd of sheep. You need the god of the herds to take care of that. We modern people can look at these ancient pantheons as completely made up. But they were made up to give us a sense of control over this world. And then all of a sudden, under the oaks of Mamre, the range of possibilities just breaks wide open. Having a child in your 90s is no longer laughable. And what is impossible is now possible because of a God who cannot and will not be controlled or predicted. We're used to thinking of an all-powerful God who can reach into the flow of human history and change everything. But that idea began somewhere. It began here with the God of Israel and Abraham and Sarah.